So I've had a request to record the meditation for someone who's not able to make the class. So just to let you know, I will be doing that as well, at least today and next week, hopefully. We'll see how it goes. Just to give it's Vilasani, who some of you will know from the class. So today I wanted to talk about working with identification, because it's such a big part of the practice, this practice of receptive mindfulness with right view. We need to be aware of when the mind has become identified with some object. So what does that mean for the mind to be identified? Well, I think identification has a quite a relationship with clinging. It's another way, in fact, of talking about clinging or being caught by something, by a particular story that's going around your mind. Caught by a particular sense object. The mind, you can feel it when the mind sort of maybe is clinging on, identified with a particular sound. So it can mean that we're lost in something, or that we're reacting to it with like or dislike, with craving or aversion. But it also is very much when we're taking something personally, something that's just going around its own business, an object of inexperience, and we take that impersonal, conditioned process more personally. We take it as saying something about me, or belonging to me in some way, or that sense object, that sight or that sound is disturbing me, or I like it. So there's all sorts of different ways we can be identified with experience, but usually at the bottom of it, we're taking it to have something to do with a coherent sort of sense of self. And this is, of course, this is the way that human beings usually think and feel about experience. It's natural, it's deeply conditioned, automatic to identify with experience as me or mine. And it's a manifestation of delusion, of the mind in delusion, and therefore it causes us suffering. So we're using these tools of awareness and right view to notice identification happening, to notice clinging happening in the mind, in the moment. Noticing it with awareness, but particularly when right view is in the mind, that's when we're able to spot identification. So I was on retreat recently in Spain for a few weeks. And one of the retreatants, when she was checking in about her practice, she said, the practice is like, she said, it's like a magic wand. And she said, whenever she checked the awareness, whenever she checked, particularly the observing mind, for klesha, for afflictive emotions, defilements, whatever we want to call them, she said the mind just dropped the klesha immediately. Whenever she checked, the effect was that the mind let go of what it was clinging to. So it might not be that the mind lets go of the klesha or the afflictive emotion. It might hang around in the mind, but what happens in the observing mind is the dropping of the identification, the dropping of, there's aversion in the mind, this is what that says about me. Then it can just be aversion or disappointment or sadness, or you can see something much more clearly once the identification has been let go of. Sayadaw U Tejaniya says that identification just makes things so much more complicated. Yeah. So this retreatant was fortunate enough and had enough awareness that that dropping of identification with objects happened very quickly, happened immediately in a lot of cases. Sometimes we have to work a bit more with it. We have to keep noticing, oh, the mind is holding on to this. The mind is identified with this, taking this to be me. And we just use awareness and right view to see what's happening. So sometimes in that case, then the identification might release for a moment and then it's back. And then it releases once again when it's noticed. And then it's back. But over time, it gets less and less. And over time, I mean, maybe over the course of half a meditation or something like that. So we can make a habit in the meditation of checking. Whenever you notice klesha, you notice the mind is disturbed or agitated, it's confused, or something doesn't feel quite right. That's usually an indication that there's some sort of klesha happening in the mind. And then you can check the observing mind, the aware mind. You can ask, how am I relating to this experience? And often that can reveal something of the identification, the clinging going on. But you can also just notice what are the qualities in the mind that is knowing, the mind that's observing. And if it's free from identification of different kinds, the observing will feel relaxed, will feel that there's ease and some pleasure. The mind will feel that over time in the practice, it's getting brighter. The mind is interested and calm. So all of these things and others, but of the same sort of nature, can be noticed when the mind is enjoying being aware, when it's, it has these qualities that support the awareness. And all these qualities show what the mind is like when awareness is working well. So they're not just nice qualities to have in the mind or pleasurable qualities, but they actually show, oh yeah, there's awareness and it's working quite well at the moment. So I've been reading a new book by Sagara Ghosha called Starting on the Buddhist Path. And some of you will know Sagara Ghosha, some of you very well. And it's a lovely book. It's a book for newcomers, but I think there's a lot in it, especially for people who are teaching meditation in classes and teaching intros to Buddhism. But she says identification is always a restriction. So that's something else that you can notice in the mind that's identified with something. If that identification is in the observing mind, it will feel a bit more tight or closed. And Sagara Ghosha contrasts this restriction of the mind that's identified with the Buddha as the trackless one, which is an image I really love. The trackless one, the Buddha as unconfined. There's nothing sort of sticking in his experience. There's a sense of complete flow and freedom. His mind didn't leave traces, if you like. Everything was happening right in the moment. So that's all I'll say for now. If you'd like to set yourselves up for sitting.